I'm happy to welcome you to the Manifested e-learning platform. The subject is Governance and Compliance Audit. Today we are going to study the challenges of governance and compliance auditing. And the challenges, we are going to categorize them into three. One is challenges related to the regulatory and legal landscape. The second category of challenges will be the organizational and challenges. Then the third category of challenges are the methodological and technical challenges. We're going to discuss the challenges of governance and compliance auditing into the three categories. And candidates, governance and compliance auditing, while crucial, the two, that is, while governance audits and compliance audits, these two are crucial, they are fraught with numerous challenges. And these challenges can impede the effectiveness of the audits. These challenges can also impact the reliability of their findings and ultimately hinder an organization's ability to operate ethically, efficiently, and legally. And many of these challenges are particularly pronounced in emerging markets like Kenya. And that's why in our today's lesson, we want to discuss the challenges of governance and compliance audit. I've said we will group the challenges into three. The first category are the challenges related to the regulatory and legal framework. Challenges. They are those challenges that are related or associated with the regulatory and legal framework, like the constantly evolving regulations. One, evolving regulations. Constantly evolving regulations. That is a challenge. The regulatory environment, we all know, is dynamic. We have new laws that are being enacted every day. And those existing laws are also being amended. We have industry-specific rules that are also emerging frequently. For example, changes in tax laws, changes in data protection regulations, and also changes in sector-specific guidelines from the Central Bank of Kenya, the regulations from the Capital Markets of Kenya, or Capital Markets Authority in Kenya, and so on. And auditors must constantly stay updated, which requires significant time and resources. And that is a challenge to most auditors. So the second challenge related to regulatory and legal framework is complexity and ambiguity of laws. Complexity and ambiguity of regulations. Laws and regulations can be complex. Some could be overlapping or even contradictory across different jurisdictions or within the same jurisdiction. For example, in Kenya, we may have overlapping roles of regulators, which can cause confusion. And interpreting their intent and applicability can be challenging to most governance and compliance auditors. So complexity and ambiguity of laws is a challenge of governance and compliance auditing. Number three is what we call jurisdictional challenges. Jurisdictional challenges or differences. Jurisdictional difference. What does that mean? Now, for the companies that are operating across borders, companies that have presence in different countries, there could be issues or differences in laws for organizations operating across borders. Compliance with diverse legal and regulatory frameworks in multiple countries adds to the immense complexity we were discussing in point number 2. Even within the same jurisdiction, laws can be contradictory, they can be confusing. You can imagine having now to deal with laws from different countries. That can be a big challenge to governance and compliance auditors. Weak enforcement. Now, even with robust laws on paper, weak or inconsistent enforcement by regulatory bodies can undermine the perceived importance of compliance, leading to a lax attitude within organizations. And this is a noted challenge in many companies, in many countries, corporate governance landscape. Do you understand? Yes. Then there is political interference. Political interference, especially in public sector entities. Political interference can hinder the independence and effectiveness of governance and compliance audits, leading to delayed or suppressed findings. And this is a significant issue, particularly in Kenya's state corporations. So these are 5 challenges related to regulatory and legal framework. The second category of challenges, these are organizational and internal challenges. Organizational and internal challenges. For example, lack of independence and objectivity. Lack of independence and lack of objectivity. For example, you may have internal auditors facing pressure from management or departmental heads, which compromises their objectivity. There are times when internal auditors are required to conduct some of these audits, and given that they report to management, they may have pressure which will compromise their independence and ultimately their objectivity. That also applies to external auditors, because while independent, they may face pressure from clients who pay their fees, or just familiarity threats in long-standing relationships. So where a governance and compliance auditor has been working for the client for so many years, they may develop that familiarity. The auditors and the organization management may be too familiar with each other, which compromises their independence and objectivity. So that is an organizational challenge. Lack of independence and objectivity. You understand? Yes. Then 2, we have resource constraint. Resources we know are always limited. We have limited resources or insufficient budgets. To carry out compliance audits, resources are required. And limited financial resources can restrict the scope, the depth, and also the frequency of audits, as well as the ability to invest in necessary technology or expert personnel. Another resource constraint is just human capital. And candidates in a digital era, there is need to have skilled auditors who understand information systems, and that is not easy Finding sufficient or well-trained auditors can also be a challenge. We have shortages of skilled and experienced auditors with specialized knowledge in IT, in cybersecurity, in environmental regulations, or just specific industry compliance. And that is a common challenge, particularly in developing economies. So understaffed audit institutions are a challenge. There are also time constraints. Time can also be a constraint. Auditors often operate under tight deadlines, which can limit the thoroughness of their audit. So this is the second challenge related to the governance and compliance audit. Now, the third challenge is data overload. Data overload and data accessibility. Data overload and data accessibility. We are here dealing with volume of data because modern organizations generate vast amounts of data, making it challenging to identify, to extract, and even analyze relevant information efficiently. There's also the issue, when dealing with data, there is the issue of integrity of data and reliability of data. That is a challenge because ensuring the accuracy, the completeness, and reliability of data used as audit evidence can be a significant challenge, especially with manual processes. Now, still on data overload and accessibility, there is the issue of resistance to information access. Auditors may face resistance from departments or individuals in accessing critical information, records, or even explanations. So those are points to illustrate data overload and accessibility. Access data can be a challenge sometimes where the auditor is not given the answers that he needs in order to form an opinion on conclusions on governance and compliance practices in general. So that is the third challenge. The fourth challenge is cultural. The fourth challenge is cultural challenges. And we can add behavioral challenges like resistance to change. Is a behavioral issue, resistance to change. Employees and management may resist new compliance requirements or changes to governance structures. There is also the tick box mentality, where some organizations may view compliance as merely a tick box exercise to avoid penalties, rather than an integral part of good business practice, leading to superficial adherence. There's also the aspect of lack of ethical culture. Where strong ethical culture is absent, auditors may encounter deliberate attempts to conceal non-compliance or manipulate information. And cultural values like nepotism and also tribalism, as seen in Kenya, can impede good governance. Another cultural or behavioral issue is lack of top management support. Because without visible commitment from the board of directors and also senior management, compliance and governance initiatives cannot succeed. So we have also cultural and behavioral challenges that can impede governance and compliance audits. 5, candidates, we are discussing organizational and internal challenges. The fifth challenge is complexity of operations, global reach. What do I mean? Now, we may have diverse business units candidates, like the large, diversified organizations with multiple business lines, with multiple subsidiaries, or international operations present, complex. They may have complex governance structures and varying compliance requirements, and that can be a challenge. Complexity of operations. We have companies that are greatly diversified, huge multinational companies with multiple business lines, multiple subsidiaries, and international operations. Such organizations have complex governance structures and varying compliance requirements, and that can be a big challenge. We also have evolving business models, new technologies like AI, like blockchain, like remote work, and even digital transformation, which introduces new risks and necessitates adaptations in audit methodology. So because of the new structures in a digital environment, auditors no longer rely on the traditional methods in carrying out their audits, and becomes a big challenge to auditors. Evolving business models. So these are 5 organizational and internal challenges. Let's move to challenges related to the methodology. Methodological. This is number 3. Technical. Methodological and technical challenges. One such challenge is assessing soft controls. 1. Assessing controls. Assessing soft controls and culture. The auditor may have a big challenge, because auditing the effectiveness of soft controls like ethical culture, like leadership tone, like information communication channels is inherently more challenging than auditing tangible financial controls. Then we have technological advancements. Technological advancements, which can also pose a great challenge in auditing. Because while technology offers solutions, it also presents challenges, like keeping up to date with new systems, because auditors need to understand and audit complex IT systems. They need to audit cybersecurity risks and also data privacy controls. You understand? Related to technological advancements is the cost of technology. Implementing advanced audit analytics or integrated governance risk compliance platforms can be very expensive. Again, there is the issue of audit trail deficiency, because some systems may lack adequate audit trails, making it difficult to reconstruct transactions or decisions. Another challenge related to methodology and technical aspects is materiality. Defining materiality, a walk in the park. Defining materiality for governance. Because while materiality is well defined for financial audits, determining what constitutes material weakness in governance, for example, board composition issue, can be subjective. And that is a challenge. 4. Limited benchmarking data. There is limited benchmarking data when it comes to methodology and the technical aspects related to governance and compliance audit, especially for governance candidates clear, universally applicable benchmarks for good performance can be scarce, which makes it challenging to assess effectiveness against industry or global best practices. So these are the challenges of governance and compliance auditing. We've categorized the challenges into three. One, regulatory and legal frameworks. The first challenge here is constantly evolving regulations. Number two, complexity and ambiguity of laws. Number three, jurisdictional differences. Four, weak enforcement. Five, political interference. The second category of challenges is organizational and internal challenges. One is lack of independence and objectivity on the part of the auditors. Number two is resource constraints. Resources could be in terms of financial resources, human capital, and time constraints. The third point is data overload and accessibility. Sometimes the governance auditors may have a challenge accessing data. They may experience resistance from the employees or resistance from the management when accessing data. The fourth challenge is cultural and behavioral challenges. Number five, complexity of operations and global reach. Then lastly, we have the other category of challenges, which is methodological and technological challenges. The first one is assessing soft controls and culture. Number two is technical advancements. Number three, defining materiality for governance. It's not easy. Then lastly, we have limited benchmarking data. Limited benchmarking data. So candidates, in closing, you have to remember that addressing these challenges requires a multidimensional approach, including a strong regulatory framework with effective enforcement, robust internal audit functions, investment in auditor training and technology, and also commitment to ethical culture from the top, and continuous improvement in audit methodologies. So that is it for our today's lesson on the challenges of governance and compliance audit. Bye-bye.